executive director here, and we are delighted to have you. And here to hear our esteemed speakers on the historic Magnolia Cemetery. Before we begin, I'd like to tempt you with a few upcoming events that we're going to have here at the museum. Tomorrow, Friday, before it rains, we're going to have a tour at the cemetery itself at 10 a.m. It's by reservation only. I've got about 9 or 10 spots left. And out in the lobby, Brianna will be out there. She has on the McFaddin-Ward scarf. And if you'd like to attend that cemetery tour, it's a walking tour, and it'll last about an hour, and it'll be very interesting. And you meet on Pine Street at the cemetery office. But you do need to sign up on the sheet if you would like to go. I don't think it's going to rain until the afternoon, so I think we'll be good. We're going to hope, crossing our fingers. Okay, and so then we move into things wonderful like the holiday season here at the McFaddin-Ward House, and it is truly beautiful here. The house is decorated to the nth degree, and it's a lovely, certainly gets you in the spirit of things. Our first event is the annual photo shoot on Sunday, December 4th. It gives you the opportunity to take a photograph of you and your family and your friends in front of the house. We have a photographer here that takes the picture and we email it to you. That requires a reservation. You just call our office and we have a few spots left for that. December 11th is our spectacular holiday open house. And this is a beautiful staircase during the holiday season, and it's just a peak. The dining room is spectacular, the breakfast room. So come see the house decorated. During that open house, we'll have all kinds of music. We'll have piano playing in the house. We'll have carolers outside. We'll have children's activities here. We'll have trees. It's a lovely afternoon. Speaking of Christmas, okay, I have a trivia thing for y'all. Okay, does anybody know what this is? You only know what this is if you read the Wall Street Journal. Who knew that? Who said that? You knew it. You read the Wall Street Journal. I found these in the Wall Street Journal, and it is a spurtle, and it's a Scottish implement for stirring porridge or flipping oatcakes. And so these are handmade by the Wild Cherry Spoon Company, and I have them here. And what they're used for today is to flip omelets or crepes, and it's just a really pretty little treasure. And we have little things like this in our gift area in the front if you all need any little Christmas things. So, spurtle, everybody. A spurtle. Okay. Then our lecture series resumes in January on the 19th. We're going to have representatives from the Port of Beaumont. We're going to have the Port Director, Chris Fisher. We're going to have Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Olson of the Military Command. And Judith Linsley will also be here to help us with the history of the port. And then after that, in March, we're going to have our first ever garden event here at the museum. It's called SOAR, and it will be a month-long colorful display of butterflies throughout the grounds with a family day, arts, crafts, education events, 2 music events. We're even going to try dancing on the lawn under the stars to the Night and Day Orchestra if it doesn't rain, and a lot more. So we have a lot more fun things coming for you. As always, I'm guilty of this myself, so I ask you to please silence your cell phones now before we begin. And at this point, I'd like to introduce you to our talented and accomplished Executive Director, Tony Chabot.
Thank you, Val, for all those shameless plugs. We had to get this started before anybody else came. Goodness, great crowd tonight, and I want to add my welcome to each of you for this, the third lecture in the museum's very popular museum lecture series. And I second Belle's invitation to each of you to stop by after Thanksgiving with your friends and with your family, and to see the house decorated for the holidays. It's a time when we like to display a remarkable portion of the collections here at the McFaddin-Ward House. And I can verify that Victoria and her curatorial staff have been polishing silver like crazy to get ready for this. Also, I want to, as I always do, acknowledge the McFaddin-Ward Heritage Foundation, as well as the museum's board of directors, whose generosity ensures that all of our programming here at the McFaddin-Ward House is free and open to the public. Several of our board members are with us tonight, and certainly deserve our recognition. So please join me in thanking Leslie Wilson, who's the president of our board. Leslie, she's over here. And Leslie's here with her husband, Bill, who's over here. And they're not sitting apart for unusual reason there. Also, their daughter, Rachel, is with us tonight. Rachel? Bill's sister, Rosine Hall, is with us tonight. Rosine, welcome. And then their other daughter, Lane, who's also on our board, Lane Wilson. Lane, thank you very much. Martha Hicks is a member of our board. Martha. And Lula Potter, who's the wife of our board member, James Potter, is also here. Lula. In September, the lecture series took us to two major battlefields in Texas' fight for independence against Santa Anna's armies. And last month, we surveyed the talents of exceptional folk and traditional artists from across our nation. Tonight, we focus on a subject closer to home, right down the street, actually, in the topic of Beaumont's Magnolia Cemetery. Carved out of his land running along the Breaks Bayou, William McFaddin set aside a small tract of land in the 1840s for the burial of family members and friends. Over the years, that property, along with other, has evolved into its current 75 acres. Here this evening to discuss that evolution is Kelli, Maness, the president of the board of directors of the Magnolia Cemetery, Paul Prosperie, the Jefferson County Historical Commission's cemetery chairman, and Judith Linsley, a treasured member of the staff here at the McFaddin-Ward House, and one of the most knowledgeable individuals, if not the most knowledgeable individual, regarding the history of this region. To start us off, please welcome Kelli Maness. Kelli?
This is so exciting. I cannot believe the number of you that are here. It makes me so proud. But I have to be real honest. The reason I got involved was I wanted to know where I was going to end. And, I asked Tommy, and he'd say, "Don't worry about it, I'll take care of it." Well, that made me even more nervous. So I called my daughter, and I said, in the paper, they've got 2 lots out at Magnolia, and I want to be at Magnolia. It's the prettiest, it's the oldest, they're going to tell the best stories. And she said, "Well, I'm walking out of exercise." I said, "No problem, my hair's wet, I'll put on a baseball cap." So we jump in the car, and we go out there, and we look, and we think, and they didn't have, more. And I couldn't find the 2 that had been advertised. The office didn't know because they didn't tell the office anyway. And we were driving around, and the more we drove around, the more I knew this is where I'm going to end up. And there was a sign that said, "The last of the estate lots." That's all it took. I'm going to go back, and instead of 2, I got 12. And I didn't tell Tommy for a while, and he said, "Well, what are you going to do with them?" And I said, "I'm going to use them. I want them. They're pretty, it makes me happy." And so then from there, they asked me to be on the board, and so I was on the board for a little while. And then the board kind of dissolved because they were getting older, and I had other things to do. And so, out to Magnolia we went, and we have a new board. Roy Felt, who, because the grounds are so pretty and now he's there. We have Tom Bell, who's done our new advertising, our new logo. We've got Bill Shepard that keeps us in line. If we spend $1, I got to have receipts. Commissioner Bo offered, and until recently Bill Hill. Now, it sounds like you just kind of meet every month or every 2 months and you go over the books. That's not what we do. We're out there every day. We're looking. In fact, when I first got out there, after I'd leave at 5, I'd drive around, and some of the guys would think, what is she doing? Why doesn't she go home? And now they say, we're so glad you're here. But one of the first things that we had to do is we had to let everybody know we were there. And the Magnolia Board is a non-profit, the Magnolia Cemetery is a non-profit perpetual care. And it's operated by a board of directors. And our job is protecting, maintaining, circulating, and improving that cemetery. We had 3 goals when we started. The first goal was we had to find a manager. And we had to find somebody that knew what he was doing, that would take care of it, that it wasn't just a job. It was a lifelong appreciation and pride. And Terry Frank, please stand up. His grandfather was out there. He was there as a kid. After basketball practice, he was there as a kid. His grandfather had him out there all the time. And then there's Peter Castle. Stand up, Peter. 25 years. They have three men. Charles Frank, Tony Frank, and Daniel Bates. Those men are responsible for 75 acres. They're there, rain, snow, cold, it doesn't matter. Hot, you talk about hot. You talk about mosquitoes. You talk about ants. We don't have any ants anymore. Or if we do, they've just come up. They weren't there yesterday. Anyway, he has guided us and helped us and showed us the steps that it takes, because Magnolia Cemetery is not just a cemetery. It is our history. It is where our families have gone, and even me. I didn't have any family. I'm not from Beaumont. I just brought me from. That's where I wanted to be. You know, it's pretty. We want our kids to be there. The second major job was the erosion from Pine Street. Well, it seems that for the years that I was on the board before I was president, I would say, y'all, what are you talking to down there at the city? And they'd say, oh, no, it's not the city's problem. It was the city's problem. We have new drainage on Pine Street. I don't know if y'all remember, but all of Pine Street was pulled up because we were receiving all of that rain. Whether it was pouring down or floods, it was coming through. It was washing away our grounds. It was washing away our roads. And as fast as we could get them going, it wouldn't work. And so that's been fixed. That's been fixed. The second, I will tell you, I went up there and I said, you have 2 choices. I'm going to be kind of like a duck, you know, that just kind of follows you around, pets you everywhere you go. Or you can fix it, because it's y'all's problem. And he said, well, nobody's told me about it. And I believe that. They just didn't want to deal with us. And the second other thing was we wanted to save that little white building. 1906. It has the, and I didn't get to say the original floor, but it's under there. So somebody down the way they can find it. It's a black and red tile. And anyway, but it's saved. And who is going in there and who is in charge is Netta Jones. Stand up, Netta. She knows the answers, and if she doesn't know the answers, give her please give her 24 hours, and she'll know it. She is loyal. She is professional. She answers the phone, and we like her. In fact, I like them. I like them all. I mean, I'm there all the time because I like it. It makes me happy. Hi, Mary Ellis. I'm going to turn this over, but I'm coming back at the end because I have more things to tell you. But I'm going to be real quick when I do it. But let me again tell you, I'm so proud that y'all are here. And Paul Prosperie's our cemetery. He walked in 2 years ago and he said, y'all need some help. And I said, need help? I'm drowning. And between him and Bruce Hamilton, we met every Monday. Real short. We met every Monday. I never had to open my mouth because I didn't know anything. Those guys, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Don, all of them, they know more than you'll ever believe. You don't have to do anything except cookies and water. And they're happy. They did want margaritas, but it's not my job. So anyway, you and Judy, please come on. And Judy and I have been friends for 50 years.
Yes, Kelly and I do go way back. And it's been fun. Okay, well, as she said, the information here, it's not as though I know all this. This is the Jefferson County Historical Commission, the staff and of Magnolia Cemetery. Everybody has contributed to what we know about this, and a lot of members of the community, family members, and things, as you'll see. Okay. Well, this is a postcard. The postcard is actually dated, I think, 1916. But if that building was built in 1906, you'll notice it's not there. So that postcard is before that. So, and that makes sense. It's okay. They were they were making postcards, and probably somebody just saved it to them in. Well, the thing about cemeteries is they were considered really basic, valuable signs of civilization and order, along with schools and churches and any kind of governmental buildings. But the early ones were usually private ones. And so Beaumont didn't have a public cemetery. But in 1876, William McFaddin donated 2.5 acres of land adjoining his family's burial ground for a public cemetery for white Beaumonters. And the Beaumont Enterprise described it as the best place and, quote, naturally a beautiful spot drained by a deep ravine, which if you're out there, it's still there. But cattle were grazing on the unfenced grounds, which were not being taken care of. The road was impassable in wet weather, and the plot didn't allow for any future growth. So in 1887, William McFaddin sold 13 acres to 5 Beaumonters, who became the first trustees of the Magnolia Cemetery Company. And those trustees cleaned up and surveyed the cemetery and co-sponsored a fundraiser. It was a grand tournament and strawberry festival. And they did it in conjunction with the Ladies Guild and the Council of Temperance. And over time, of course, the land was added, and especially during the pandemic of 1918, the influenza pandemic, the story goes that grave diggers would find coffins waiting for them every morning when they showed up for work from people who had died of influenza during the night. And this aerial view shows that Magnolia is also surrounding 3 other cemeteries right here. The Call Israel and Hebrew Rest are on the right and on the left, and this little strip down the center is St. Michael's Orthodox Cemetery. So there are other cemeteries there too, and we hope to add them to our knowledge and to our tours and everything else. All right, well, Magnolia has continued to expand in the last few years. And so today, the former property occupied by the Woodson Pipkin School on Pine Street, and it was abandoned over the years. They built a new school elsewhere, and they tore the school down, and now it is part of Magnolia Cemetery. And Woodson Pipkin was a very prominent African-American educator and minister here in Beaumont. And it's kind of important in that Magnolia was originally chartered as a white cemetery. No longer, it's for anyone now. But a dedicated cemetery for African Americans started nearly as early as Magnolia. And I can't remember which way to point it. It was the Martha Mack Cemetery. In 1881, Martha Mack, an African-American Beaumont woman, bought an acre of land just south of the Magnolia Cemetery from William McFaddin for $50, by the way. It became Martha Mack Cemetery, and it is shown here. I believe that's a 1941 Sandburn map, but that's just the general thing. Let's see, here's the arrow. Let's see. Okay, let me get straight. Here's Pine Street. Here's the Magnolia Cemetery, and here's the Martha Mack Cemetery, just down Pine Street from it. And this is a picture of Martha Mack, probably taken in the 1890s. We're not sure. The Martha Mack Cemetery was used well into the 20th century. The graves may have since been moved to Evergreen Cemetery, but maybe not all of them. There's a lot of research that's remaining. We've just kind of started and scratched the surface of this, both on Martha Mack and on her cemetery. But we are in contact with some of her family, and so we hope to find out a lot more before it's all over. And I'm going to now turn it back over to Paul to tell you some more about the people and the monuments.
Okay, as Kelli had said, there's a lot of nice, great statues and just monuments all through the cemetery, and it's a nice place just to walk. And a lot of them are just like cherubs. And just beautiful, just to look at. And the symbolism, some of the symbols of like the cherubs, sorry, excuse me. Yeah. Okay. A lot of the symbols are, dedicated and for basically for, sorry, I don't know. Just, yeah, sorry. It's been a long day. I was at Fort Work all day. Sorry. No, a lot of them are just good to look at. You've got the symbols like the iron, like the crosses, and with the vines growing on them. You've got the urn with the veil over it. Means that usually means that the life between the world between life and death. Also, in the urn would be a symbol like as immortality.
We've also got a lot of big mausoleums, and this one mausoleum is kind of right up front. And they were on the tour the last tour. That's the Rush Norville and Aurelia Norville mausoleum. And I added the inside view of some of the nice stained glass they have. Rush was he was the bank president, the American National Bank president from until 1928 when he died. Aurelia, she was the charter member of the DAR, and that's her ancestor was the one from the Moffat chapter here at Beaumont. And like I said again, you have all these beautiful statues in just different types of architecture and stuff in the 75 acres. Okay, this one is on the hill, and his name is Jorge Morales. He died in the 20s of TB. Well, I believe also his sister is buried there as well because she died when she was 1 year old, and that's the lamb that on there. So both of them are buried there. One thing about these stones or these around there, it's cement. It looks like wood, and this is about the time when Dionisio Rodriguez was doing. It was a little bit earlier than that. But he did the benches at St. E's when there was Phelan Mansion. I don't know if it was him, probably wasn't, but they were both from, Dionisio actually he's from Mexico, but he did live in San Antonio. And Jorge was from San Antonio also. And it may have been just a family member just to have, or just kind of copy what he did. There's a few people that did that type of architecture. But it just looks like logs. And then it's cement, but it looks like, it's cut logs. It's almost like the Woodman of the World type. And this is the urn with the drape on it. Which usually, like I said, the urn is means immortality, and when it's draped draped between the life from the life and death. Okay, the Woodmen of the World, they derive from the Modern Woodmen of America fraternal group that was founded in 1883. Fraternal scholar William Whalen described the insurance. It is an insurance society with some fraternal lodge features. The Woodmen advertised that Jew and Gentile, Catholic and Protestant, and agnostic and atheist, they would all, they didn't care. They loved each other, all your money. It didn't matter who you were. So, they were insurance. But they did, you can see all these, you can see a lot of these, different cemeteries in this area. But for the most part, they're all over Magnolia. And it's different. We've got one coming up that, it kind of looks like the one that, but, another symbolism is the broken obelisk. And this one is from Brandon Shishon, and he was his life got cut short, and he fell off a horse and killed, and he was 21, and I believe, let's see, family tradition holds that he was in love with Skip McFaddin. And the symbolism there is for, because since he didn't live a full life, they cut off the top of that. Also, you have the same thing with columns. If they're broken, that usually means that their life has been cut short. And there's story of the Martin. But this one would be around where the building is in the front. And one thing about this one is I took a photograph. I've seen this a few years back, and I didn't know the story of it. But this is the back of Eleanor Miner's headstone, and it says, "That I gave, that I have." Well, I didn't know this meaning of it until maybe 2 weeks ago, because a friend of mine was doing they're doing work for the World War I monument, and one of the Beaumont boys that died, and they didn't bring him back, was Farrell Miner, and that's his mother. So that's why on the back of her head, on her stone, that's what that means, because she did give everything. She gave her boy in World War I. He died in World War I, and his body was never returned. So, and we'll have a few more for the. Okay, this is not a woodman of the world, but you would think it is because there's a big, huge tree. But it's actually the Ogden tree, and they were in lumber. And if you notice, all the little stones around it look like cut off logs. It's the family plot, which that's another interesting part of the cemetery that you don't find. You don't really see anywhere else. I don't know how much you paid for it, but that wasn't cheap. All right. Now, this is a headstone. I don't know why they did this, but it's a boulder. And Ashley Weaver and his wife, they were from Sabine Pass. And in the storm of the hurricane of 1886, they survived and they moved to Beaumont. Well, they moved to Beaumont and they said and lived here all their life. And actually, their son, who's buried next to them, took over as American National Bank and president after Normal. And I don't know why it's a boulder, but I would love to find out why the symbolism of it. But it is right over there, kind of near where the Steigel Mausoleum is. And speaking of the hurricane of 1886, this is a memorial, and it's behind the firefighters' plot, and it's a memorial to Miss Jack McDonough, who died. She was a postmistress in Sabine Pass in 1886, and she died trying to get stuff out of the post office, and the water was rising, and when they tried to leave, the boat tipped over, and she died. There's 3 of them that died, and she was never found. The other 2 were buried in Sabine Pass. But her brother made this. Her brother made the monument here and some of the family members. I have the story that I found because there's a lot of people dying in that, and a lot of them came to Beaumont that did survive. Okay, and since I mentioned the firefighters, this is the firefighter plot, and that's the volunteer firefighters from Beaumont. And they were, the reason the firefighter plot was because they were volunteers, and they decided to, for the ones who died, give them a plot, I guess free of charge, to bury them for their thing. And which comes to Sibby Van Wormer, which in the cemetery, her maiden name was Van Wormer, And in this cemetery, you're going to find hundreds of Van Wormers, but you won't find any of them in the phone book now around here in Beaumont. I don't know what happened. But Sibby was born in the Reconstruction period, and she was very independent, and she was also very protective of her kids, especially Max. Max Holmes was he was in the Army, and he's one of the Beaumont boys that didn't make it. And the sad part about this was he landed in France a month before they signed the armistice, and he died of Spanish flu. And he basically died for nothing. But some of the stories before, when he was in the Army, I think it was 1917, and Sibby, being the mom she was, they put him at the border because I guess to chase Pancho Villa, and she ended up at the border living in a hotel room to be close to him. And there are reports from the newspaper reports from that era of some lady on the border just feeding them information, all the reporters. So Sibby was, she was one of the guys. But Max died in France, and they buried him in France, and then Sibby brought him back. So they reburied him back here next to her in the plot. So, okay. And this is George Carroll Smart, and he is the first Beaumont boy to die in France. And he died in action at the Battle of Marne in France. And they were, I guess, a lot of people wanted to give like a monument, or wanted to try to, give a monument to those who they started losing Beaumonters to, so they decided to come up with a monument to World War I veterans, or World War Beaumont boys who died in action. There's 22 Beaumont boys who died in France that were returned and they're buried in Magnolia. There's 2 of them in Evergreen that were returned in here. But this stone, and how many have ever seen this stone? And that's the problem, because it's in front of the Beaumont Enterprise, the old Beaumont Enterprise building. Well, actually, the stone was it was, I guess, put in 1920. It was put in Keith Park, which is where the old City Hall is now. Okay. Well, they moved it to Triangle Park, which nobody's ever heard of, but it's basically the smallest park in probably the United States. It's because all it is stone in a triangle. So, but that's what they called it, Triangle Park. So it's been there ever since, and they did take care of it. But the problem is, by the 50s, people stopped putting reefs and everything else, and now it's just, vines are growing on it. But there is a movement, since there's a few people here, some in the audience, that they've done all the research on the names of the Beaumont boys who died in France. And actually, this stone was intentionally, initially they were going to put the names of the Beaumont boys on the stone, but for some reason they never did. But right now, that's kind of ongoing, that they want to do this. They want to get the names put either on the plaque or etch it on the back. And that right now, we'll know more about it hopefully soon. But anyway, they will hopefully have this moved to Magnolia Cemetery and then relocated, and also with those 22 people, or just the 22 boys, will probably have a tour, or try to. I think they're even trying to do like a booklet for the history of these, because a lot of the interesting stories. Okay, and then it's Tom the Tramp. Here you. Okay. Okay. So this just goes round and round. Okay. Well, Tom the Tramp, it goes back to the Keith family. The Keith family were, their two daughters were in, Crystal Beach? Crystal Beach, okay. And this was 1900 in September, speaking of hurricanes. So anyway, the two girls were at this hotel, and while I think the Keiths were in, they were in New York. So nobody really had they didn't know the hurricane was coming, but it came, and Tom was a kind of he was a jack of all trades at this hotel, and he basically saved these two girls from drowning. And for 2 weeks, I think the Keiths thought their kids were dead. So until they finally found them, they were so happy that they found that their children were still alive. They gave him a home in both, and they just gave him a home, and they just tried to put him up as best he could. And the sad part about it, he had a seizure and knocked over a lamp and burned to death. But they put him on in their plot, because they were still they were so happy that about what he did, or they was appreciated. All right, that's you. Yeah.
As you can see, Paula and I have sort of done a tag team so that nobody just gets exhausted. But it also has to do with the parts of the cemetery we're the most accustomed to giving the tour in. And so this is on the hill, and the hill is the oldest, and as you might imagine by the name, the highest part of the cemetery. And so it was the original McFaddin family burial plot. And this monument on the plot has a number of names on it, who are of the family members who are buried, and they have the stones are out around in the area, but also that's where the historical marker is. And so you've got John Andrew McFaddin, who died in the Civil War at the Battle of Fort Bayou in Louisiana. And you've got Rachel McFaddin and William McFaddin and several others of the McFaddin family. It's an extended plot, and it's in several squares, but this kind of centers it, kind of anchors it. And the sphere symbolizes an unending circle of life. It's another symbol that you'll see pretty often in the cemetery. And like I say, it was the oldest part because it was the part that William McFaddin first used as a burial ground. Nearby is a grave of Andrew Smith, spelled with a Y, but pronounced Smith. He's a veteran, but he's a very early one. He's a veteran of the Texas Revolution. He came to Texas in 1835 to fight with Alabama's Red Rovers. It was a militia group that came over to fight in the Revolution. Fortunately, his group never caught up with the main group because most of them died in the massacre at Goliad. So Andrew Smith's bunch survived just because they could never quite find the main group. And later, Andrew Smith piloted a steamboat, the Laura, on the Natchez and Angelina rivers. And he actually lived up at Bevelport on the Angelina, but he died in Beaumont. And of course, you couldn't haul people a lot before funerals back then. And so he's buried here, but his wife is buried up near their home at Bevelport. The clasped hands right there, you can't really see them because the picture doesn't show, but it's clasped hands just like a friendship, like people shaking hands. But they signify a farewell to earthly life, like the welcoming hand of the next world. And some more of the symbolism. This is the gravestone of Caroline Gilbert Hinchy, and she was a member of the Gilbert family. They were very early. This is also on the hill with a lot of these early families. And of course, that tombstone has been recently cleaned. I mean, it's just pristine looking. There's some controversy about whether you ought to do that with stones or not, because every time you clean them, it deteriorates them slightly. But it looks wonderful, and it does make them so much easier to read. But she and her husband built the beautiful Hinchy house on Park Street that is currently undergoing restoration, and it's just by a group of concerned preservationists, people who loved the house and wanted to save it, bless them. And the house itself was designed by Henry Conrad Maurer, the same architect who designed the McFaddin-Ward House. So, okay, this is a grave of Robert Kidd. Again, it's on the hill. It's sort of east, like between the McFaddin plot and the river. Well, this was at Robert Kidd at the age of 99, came in from plowing the fields and told his wife he just didn't think he could do that anymore. But he didn't lie down and die. He actually lived for 17 more years. Not sure what he did during those 17 years, but he didn't plow the fields. The emblem on his stone is, wrong button, is of a weeping willow. You can't really see. Again, the light's not right, but it's a very stylized weeping willow, and you see it on a lot of tombstones. And it symbolizes immortality, and he almost achieved it on this side of the creek. It's pretty amazing. This is the grave of, well, actually, these are graves of the whole Weiss family. Simon Weiss was a Jewish citizen of Poland who opened a store in Beaumont in the 1830s. He never really practiced his religion because, for one thing, there weren't any synagogues here that early on. He actually married a Presbyterian Scotswoman, Margaret Sturrock, who was from Tyler County, what would become Tyler County. And he actually, he moved upriver to Weiss Bluff. It's still called Weiss Bluff. It's on the Orange County side of the river. Opened a store there, but his 5 sons all became successful Beaumont businessmen, and these are the families that are buried in this Weiss plot. He also changed the spelling of his name. The way it's spelled, you'd call it Weiss, but it's Weiss, and it was originally W-E-I. We don't know what the reason was for the changing of the spelling. Okay, this is the Coe plot. It's toward the front. It's closer. It's not on the hill. It's closer to Pine Street. Down, there's a kind of a side road that will lead you to it if you go there. But Herring Coe is the gentleman who did this. He was a sculptor and a native Beaumonter. He was nationally known. He's done a lot of work around here, a lot of work at Lamar. And so he custom designed his family's grave markers. He carved his father's likeness, the tall column, let's see, there, that's his father. His mother is shown, Herring did a lot of it. It was like Art Deco style to me. And so he did the mother as depicted her as embracing her children. and some of them predeceased her, and he has them one way, and then the other children are the other. And then each sibling's block is carved with either their talents or their interests. This is Herring's, because there's his hammer and chisel for his sculpture. And his sister Kelli, who is a writer and also managed a bookstore, it has pencils and paper and things like that on it. And so it's very personalized and very much worth the effort of going to see, because he was very good. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Paul now.
Call for help. All right. Okay. Some of you may know this person. This is Susie Spindletop, and she was the McFaddin's neighbor. Florence was born in 1881 in Brazoria County, and I think she moved here with her. She moved here in 1903 after finishing school in Alabama, and she started working at the Beaumont Journal, and over there she started. It was 1914. We don't know for sure yet, but it's either 1914 or 1915. She started the Milk and Ice Fund here, which they're trying to promote now. The Beaumont Enterprise is. But she started the Milk and Ice Fund and also the Empty Stocking Fund. Well, she was a reporter to the Beaumont Journal until 1920, and then she went to the Enterprise. And she had a weekly, basically Susie Spindletop's weekly letter, and for 12 years, from 1926 to 1938. The who's who people in Beaumont, and everybody wanted to be in her little in her weekly letter, and even she would get even she would mention stuff in there, and like the house that's next door, the house next door here, she had that built in 1929, and actually that house was built with the bricks from the old courthouse. So when she, I guess, started talking about she was going to build that house, well, she mentioned it in her weekly letter. Well, that whole week she was getting phone calls from all the contractors, and she had mentioned that she didn't know that many male contractors or men read her weekly letter. But yeah, she was very prominent, and she would around, especially with the McFaddins, they were intertwined. That picture right there with Florence, that is from 1907 in Grayburg. With they had some McFaddins out there. It was the final spike into the railroad. I forgot what one. And then of course the picture below was from 1911, and this Julius Wilkerson, and that picture was actually off a place where she used to live on Orleans, which is was right next before the Beaumont Hotel was. I mean, it's basically an empty lot now. But she died in 1938, and she had a stroke in January of 1938. So she went to New Orleans to have a surgery, kind of the experimental surgery. Well, it didn't go well, and she ended up dying. One thing though, I have a signed copy of her book, The Story of Beaumont, and in the last weekly letter that she wrote, she mentioned about a lady named Lois Cunningham, just came from Mexico, and she brought her tea, and now she's going to go visit her kids in Detroit. Well, in that book, it says to Lois Cunningham, and that always, because I did buy it off of, I bought it and it came from Detroit, so I kind of know the backstory of my book now.
She was a teacher.
Oh,
Lois Cunningham was a teacher.
Yeah.
In Beaumont.
Okay, but I always thought that was, I don't know, special that at least I know where my book comes from.
Paul.
Okay. And okay. This is a Chinese stone, and it was we don't really know who it is, but we think they have found a story of a guy named Wang Shu fellow. He was in 1920. He fell off a tanker, and he was Cantonese. And this, like I said, this is interesting as far as all the different types. They call it a white cemetery, but there's, it's just everybody's in it. And there's this one's right way in the back of the tree, so that's why we had the picture of it on the tour. We talked about it, but we don't really want. I mean, you'd have to walk pretty good ways. Okay, and this lady here, Fatma, she was 22 years old and weighed 15 pounds, and she was as tall as a wine bottle. So they were part of a gymnastics thing in, I guess, troop in 1903, and she ended up dying at the Crosby Hotel, and she's buried here. So, the show went on as far as Schwann, So Schwann, he was the only one left, and he did the show. Basically, it was like a fitness thing, and she was basically they were billed as perfect humans but smaller. And that should be the Yount Mausoleum. It's not there no more, but thanks to Pansy. But I would love to see that still there. Beautiful. It's across the, well, it was across the highway. It's on the side of the other building, the current office, and it was built there. She had it built and went in there and found some sand on the floor because it was after a storm. And the architect went in there and she asked him how long it would last, and he said 500 years, and she said that ain't good enough, tear it down. So they tore it down. And the last one is Steinway, and this lady was she was Dutch, and she came to the United States in 1884 to make hats, and she moved by herself to Beaumont and died around 1889. And she made a pretty good living, but she also financed, and that's where she made her money. And this is right along the road. This is a 12-plot mausoleum that only she's buried on. And that statue right there is the St. Catherine of the Wheel. That thing cost $5,000 in 1908. So it's worth about, the whole thing is worth about $750,000 in today's. Yeah. But she, she had land all over different areas, and she did make a lot of money, never married, and she did what she wanted to do. I mean, she was pretty, there was a lot of them too in the cemetery. There's a lot of women out there that they didn't have to answer anybody, and they did what they wanted to do. Sibby for one, and same with Katharina. So, and I think that's about it.
She didn't have any family. She was unclean. She needed somebody to help her. She's mine. I go out there and I clean her and I make sure that I sweep her off and stuff because, you think about it, she had nobody to take care of her. And when I got out there, she was a mess. She really was. But I had called Austin because I was going to have the Boy Scouts come out and clean stones. Well, you would have thought that I had done something terrible. She said, those are not your headstones. You do not clean them. If the families want them clean, they will come out and they will clean them. Well, she didn't have any family. So I didn't mess with that. So anyway, that's what they say, and that's one reason that we don't have that all the stones aren't clean. I'm going to tell you 2 more things, and then I'm going to open it up if y'all want questions. One, on the little new building, we're planning on it to have educational classes. We hope to bring some of the school children out there to do photography, architect, writing skills, but to bring them out and make them comfortable. Also, we have little bitty baby cemeteries. They're oval. I really want those planted with wildflowers, but maybe somebody wants to come and adopt a family. Anyway, the other thing is we have a 3 to 5 year plan. Pipkin is so historical, and we're going to find out as much as we can. We're going to add columns to both of those entrances. We've got a planned gazebo and architect and landscaping hopefully going out there. Of course, all of this costs money. We're going to become a designated historical cemetery. That is our first goal. We are going to improve our roads. We have had Gates Jenkins go out and do his Eagle Scout program, it's an Eagle Scout project. And now, it's not all the way through, but there's hundreds of them. Anyway, there's little posts that say you're in section K or you're in section M, so that you can drive around and figure out where you are, because otherwise you don't know where you are. And demolition of 2-story building and use that ground for new burials. As you can see, we are busy. But before I end this, would the Historical Society people please stand up? Come on, stand up, guys. I am telling you, they are key. And my family. My daughter, my son-in-law, my son, his lady friend, my boys, my Mary Ellis, my husband. Sometimes they would like for me to come home and cook. So it's either Magnolia Cemetery or dinner. And I think we can buy dinner. Okay. Are there any questions? We have one.
I'll talk loud. What do you do when eventually you run out of space?
We're not going to run out of space.
Never. Okay.
What we are doing is we are looking around. This is a dream, but it's going to be wonderful when it comes to trees. We're on the Breaks Bayou, okay? Bayou, I say bayou. Well, it curves around. When you go down, all right, here you are in the cemetery, you go down, and it curves around. Excuse me. And I want all that cleared so that you can come out there and sit and watch the bayou, and there's fish out there and turtles, and it's going to be beautiful. We're also, we do terrace activities. I like it. No, they don't think it's needed. We've got some more land. We have some next to us, don't we? And we're trying to buy whatever we can around us. But we've been doing this for 134 years. You know, this is a heavy burden they put on us. Because what do you do with the cemetery? You got to keep it up. I mean, you can't sell it. Hey, give it away. It's ours. And y'all are the ones that have to come out. I mean, I want you out there anytime you want. I want, you know, and you come out and adopt a family. Come out and adopt a plot. You know, we have some people that come out every day to visit. In fact, I'm moving my mother and my brother and my granddad. Just a little crazy. Any more questions?
What was that house that's going to get demolished?
The two-story house, there's no significance to it. It's where the manager lives, right, Terry? Terry, come up here so you can help me answer this question. He is so nice.
Yes, it was just a home for the managers and upkeeping of families that used to run the cemetery. The Kings were the family that originated there for many years. And they kind of took over and stayed in those homes, just their family, grandkids, and so forth. So that's basically what this is a home for the family.
But there's a lot of land there. It's not, you know, I mean, it's not historical, but it will be historical when it will add to the section G. Yeah.
It's going to be
Yeah.
I think it'll be something.
You're louder.
This is something that we can grow and be able to accommodate what we'll call like a new estate lot. We can bring in better, facilities that looks a little bit better and it kind of fit in with the historical part of the cemetery. So if we add on to that and we take out all those homes over there and it's just sitting there, there's no use to it because they're kind of at the age where they deteriorate. We used to have families that could come in and buy those homes and move them to some other location, which I would like that to happen, but I don't think anybody really does that anymore. But since that's not the case, we would go ahead and demolish those homes, build it up just like the park is already there, and add into it, and beautify the cemetery. And that way we'll give a better look for the family that's coming in that just wants to be still in that location. Instead of going deeper into the cemetery, you still be on the front side of the farm. And it'll give you a better view and everything. You know, it's just something a little different. We can add features to it. You know, we can take, whatever you guys give us information or something that you might be a little interested in saying, hey, we want to have a fountain here, we might want to put something here or something. You know, whatever we can do to make it comfortable for you guys and families to come out and be a part of our cemetery. Because the Magnolia Cemetery is like 100 years old. And with it being that old, we just want to make sure that we're dedicating it to the families and make sure we're going to be there for you guys and families and friends, whoever that wants to be a part of our, this new generation that we're trying to build. So with that said, whatever y'all decide y'all want to look at, just come by and take a look at the Magnolia Cemetery. Just visit. And,
you don't have to stay.
Kelly, do you have a question back here?
Okay, you mentioned that there was a study going on about Martha Mack Cemetery. Is there
Yes.
going to be a monument or something to represent?
Well, one, we don't know who owns it, do we?
no, what we're trying to do, that's a project we're working on coming up in the future. We need to really locate it, make sure we know where we are, what's going on, what happened there. And that way, if we can get it, we're as close enough to the cemetery, we can do like an annex, so we kind of add it into the Magnolia Cemetery. Since we're doing history on it, it'd be a great feature, and if we can find it, clean it up, add it to our property, put maybe a monument or something out there, something that's been a little historical written, I think it'd be a great idea. Because, we want, if they're part of Magnolia, you want them to be part of it.
Right. Well, we have, some of the guys and me went out there and tried to go through it. There was a homeless man that was living there for a while, but we couldn't find him. But we found some of his stuff.
Martha Mack is her great-great-grandmother.
Are you the one from North Carolina? Are you Tish?
No, I'm not Tish. I'm Cheryl Patillo, because she was my great-great-grandmother.
Okay, well, you need to come and visit. Because we just found that, Lynn Steinman, who I just adore, he's so smart. But we want to have part of that, and we're going to try to, if we can buy it, we will. If we can't, we'll just steal it. I mean, nobody else is using it.
You had a question, sir?
In proximity to Blind Willie Johnson's grave is Magnolia Cemetery.
John Willie Wright?
Blind Willie Johnson.
I know. He's not in there, is he? He's down the street, I think.
He's in the middle of Tennessee.
Do you know what?
He's in,
There's a small neighborhood cemetery.
right, it's not Magnolia.
And they don't know where his exact grave is, so they just put up a marker.
But would he like to come live with us?
Any other questions? One more.
Is there a, because y'all are doing great with these tours, but are y'all thinking about doing like a little self-guided walking tour, mats, because I recognize where some of those are, but I'm not out there enough to know, like, well, where could I go find that? Where could I go find that?
Yes, we are going to try it. The other thing that I'm sorry, Tony, but this is so much fun. We're going to, what we're working for is
Go to the mic.
go to the mark. What we're trying to do is we're working on our website and our Facebook and stuff, which I can't do. But I think I found somebody that can. Anyway, and what we'll do is put like a map, and then twice a year we'll send out letters. And also, this is a new thing, and I didn't know whether I was going to say it, but I'm going to say it because I like y'all. We're going to have Friends of Magnolia Cemetery, and you will be on a list. And if you want to buy a tree, you can buy a tree, and at the bottom of the tree it will be, Terry Frank in honor of Kelli Maness. Because I've cleaned out, I've gone out and cleaned out miles from when she called and said it's not clean. Y'all need to go clean it. Dumping. I'm going to help you clean. But we're not, we're not supposed to do a lot of that stuff. Oh, you want it? Do you want the mic?
One more question.
Okay, one more question or one more comment or one more wish or, come on. Let's get a good one.
Here you go.
Okay.
This is a basic question. Do you have a listing of everybody that's in the cemetery? If I came up there and asked for names, could you tell me where they were?
Most definitely we might. Well, I'm telling you, you're not going to believe this, but we have file cabinets that are handwritten. There's nothing, we in the computer is what Netta has been able to do. We don't have the computer that says where everybody is and what they are. It's all handwritten, and that's what we have. Now, sometimes they might write or sometimes they might not, but they're also not always in alphabetical order. But we try. I did call to see if they would come out and put everything on a computer, and they were so excited. They said yes, they could. $7,000 an acre. 75 acres, $7,000. I told them very thank you, but self-sufficient. But anyway, we tried. Netta can answer something.
So if you're interested in knowing something about someone that may be buried at the cemetery, just call me in the office, and then I can do some research and I can get back with you.
But give her 24 hours because I'm always Okay, thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Kelli. It was great to learn so much about the Magnolia Cemetery tonight, and certainly think that we should have an update and maybe give you a year or two to come back and give us an update on the progress that you're making out here, because it's really, really been interesting. We have a little something for you from the as I disappear behind the podium, little gifts for you and Paul and Judy. I know this is just what Judy wants, is something from And thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. Please join us over the holidays. After Thanksgiving, come see the house. It's really spectacular during the holidays. And we'll see you in January for our next lecture. Thank you so much.